Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Eventful Endeavors. I'm really excited today. We are here with Kimball, who is the event manager over at the Space Needle in Seattle, Washington. So this is probably the most iconic thing we've had yet. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So before we even jump into the venue, talk to me a little bit about yourself, because you told me some of this stuff, how you were doing journalism, then came into events, and at some point in there you were Miss Seattle. So just run me through your story so I can clarify what's happening.
Yes,
how'd you get
absolutely.
into this?
I think it's just, I will say I absolutely never, so I'm the sales manager at the Space Needle and Chihuly Garden and Glass. We manage private events at both properties. And I will say I absolutely, at least Kimball growing up and going to school, never thought once I would have sales manager in my title or that I would be here right now. But basically in school, I was thinking I was going to go into broadcast journalism, worked super hard to finally get my foot in the door at this news station. It was a radio station, which was a little sister to ABC. It was an ABC affiliate. So it's all right, I finally made it. I was actually joking with one of my coworkers earlier that I was this was the type of I'll scrub the floor with my toothbrush. I'll do whatever it takes to get my foot in the door in this industry. And then I finally did, and it took so long. And I started working there, and I can't remember exactly when it hit me, but maybe around 6 months in, I was doing these overnight shifts, right? Because I was the new girl with the terrible schedule. And I remember sitting in the studio thinking, I'm sitting in this small, dark studio on a hill and kind of in the middle of nowhere, talking about these things that are going on and just feeling so disconnected from it. I'm just not a part of what's happening and creating those moments and really being a part of that community. I felt very disconnected. And so from there, and probably also because I was feeling depressed in the news world, working these overnight shifts.
Sure.
I wanted, to just start getting more out in the field, out in the community. I was already a part of other organizations where I was volunteering and a part of a lot of events. I just never really put together that events could be what I actually do. And then news taught me that I didn't want to work in news and I wanted to go more lifestyle culture. So I ended up getting a job. It was at Seattle Met Magazine, where I got to be a part of more of that lifestyle culture and event world. They had an event department over there that honestly was just started helping them. And then before I knew it, I was here I am. I'm in the community. I'm on site. I'm connecting with these people and meeting them there. And I'm making a friend on the catering team. Everything just started to feel really connected and really powerful. And one of the reasons why I love events and hospitality too is it's that connection to people that drives me for sure. So I love coffee, but I also my caffeine is people and connection and relationship building. And even more so now in sales, that business development. And then one event job just kind of turned into another. I put in quite a few years, honestly, just with my head down, humbly working. We get our butts kicked a lot in the event and hospitality world, especially when you're in events and hospitality through COVID, right? We all learn so much through that. But putting the work in and just kind of, working on turning those wheels, making those connections, eventually it was actually a personal connection that helped me or through networking too, but that helped me get my foot in the door here. And now here I am on this events team, which, like you said, the most iconic spaces in Seattle.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So how did Miss Seattle come about? Talk to me about that.
So you asked for a fun fact, and I like to tell this story just because it was all an accident. I really stumbled into pageants on accident. In fact, I was putting myself through school. I went to Western Washington University. And I had about my first 2 years covered I worked way too hard in high school. Like I had my first 2 years covered in scholarship. The last 2 years
Nice.
were up to me to put myself through school. I was working, I think, 3 jobs at the time. And looking back, I was like, dang, I was in sales before I even knew it. I was a tour guide over
Yeah.
at Western. Okay, last 2 years, right, were up to me
Sure.
to, I was applying to a lot of, really anything I qualified for, actually.
Yeah.
And it was my mother, my sweet mom, who found in the Bellingham Herald a little newspaper clip that said scholarship opportunity and now accepting applications to Miss Whatcom County 2012. And we were like, no way. No way do pageants still exist. I have 2 older brothers. I grew up as a tomboy with a lot of dirt in my, lots of wrestling and mud and hand-me-downs, all of those things. But shoot, I was like, let's go for it. Why not? And then it turned out the Miss America program is the little pitch there is it is a scholarship program. And when you compete for scholarship dollars. So before I knew it, I was deep in this world of it's very community and volunteer based, very community oriented. You have a service project for your community. So kind of that event world already. And that love of events was there too. But then so I was like, all right, let's do it. I competed, ended up winning before I knew what I had gotten myself into. Once you're a title, you kind of qualify for like the next level, right?
Right.
Which then eventually was Miss Seattle. And I have to say that was the beginning of, just like building those connections and getting to be on site, getting to be a part of all different kinds of events. And it's a little fun fact. It's like my little Hannah Montana, like 2 worlds. If you saw me, you would never know until I'm like there just randomly, like, why are we wearing crowns on our head and sashes? Like, it's a whole thing. It's a little silly, but it's also what you make of it, which I think events are too. And very volunteer. Volunteer based and kind of helped me get my foot in the door in some Seattle spaces.
Well, that's really cool. You definitely win the award for most interesting fact, I think. That was very interesting.
I was ready to throw you off.
Yeah. So let's talk about the space. Let's talk about the venue a little bit. Obviously everybody for the most part knows what the Space Needle is, but not everybody knows about the Garden and Glass and all that stuff. I've been there myself many times and I love that whole spot. So talk to me a little bit about, for people that might not know, the 2 spaces, what they are, like how they work and, the differences with them and all that.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously that's a big part of my job now, right? Everyone knows about the Space Needle. And for the most part, Chihuly Garden and Glass. But what a lot of people don't know is that while we are all that, the Space Needle and Chihuly, the whole venue, the whole experience of famous, popular public attraction that's operating every day to the public, both spaces are private event venues. Obviously famous public attractions first and private event venues second. But both spaces actually, along with being the whole venue that, the Amazons or Ubers or the big money clients of the world can do a whole buyout and have a company holiday party at the top of the Space Needle. We are also, both spaces break down into much smaller private event venues too. So we actually here at both spaces can host private events that range from 10 people to 1,500 people.
Oh, wow.
The Space Needle, a lot of people don't know that. Of course, the Space Needle, you think of the top, you've got that top house, but which is around 550 feet high and beyond. But 100 feet high is it's called our Skyline private event level.
I did not know that.
Back in the day when the Space Needle used to have a restaurant, which also actually I'm still, that's been a part of my job too, when people are reaching out to make dinner reservations. At the old restaurant. We are no longer a restaurant. The top 2 levels have been opened up for this full guest flow experience and can be bought out for private events, which if you have a lot of dollars in your event budget, work for you. But Skyline private event level, it is the only private event level at the Space Needle. But we're not needing obviously to close to the public in order to host your private event. So
Right.
while you can have some big dollar elevated fancy events here, we can also do, your Uncle Tom's birthday party and even just corporate meetings and really standard, sweet and simple events on Skyline. And
Yeah,
then
that's interesting because I would have expected like people would think like, oh, it's a Space Needle, it's got to be like the most expensive thing 'cause they
right,
probably have to buy it
exactly.
out. That's cool. So you can do it on like a Saturday afternoon while people are still visiting. You can still have this event. So it's just
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is a big part of my job and what I work on now, just kind of reconnecting with we're well enough post COVID, like we are full steam ahead.
Oh yeah.
But so much has changed at the Space Needle and actually continues to change. We're undergoing an elevator modernization project right now for the next 3 years, which makes event logistics really fun. Everything has to go up and down those elevators, whether or not we
Right.
have one. But yeah, it's just that, yes, I mean, you can have that full top house event and spend all your money. But you can also, there's some very, very doable, even budget friendly event opportunities at both spaces. And similar over at Chihuly, you can book out the full closure. You've got the interior galleries and the
Yeah.
event in the glass house, and there's the glass gardens. But we also have now the bar at Chihuly, which is a smaller private event space that is right off of Chihuly Garden and Glass, as well as some other smaller spaces that similar. Like I could book a 10-person event for people to go hang out in the arbor room and have, like a lovely baby shower.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I had no idea that there were so many options over there. It's a lot of fun. Do you guys do mostly weddings or is it mostly corporate stuff? Like, is it half and half? Like, what's your main thing?
Ooh, yes, I love that question. So we have a team right now. We're very excited. Okay, 2024, this is the year.
This is the
We
year.
are finally, there was a lot of rebuilding after COVID. And then I would say too, and I think a lot of event and hospitality, catering, food and beverage, companies can relate that there was a need for almost mass hiring. And then there was a little bit of a need for kind of weeding that out and figuring out who really was the good fit. If you're hiring a lot of people at one time,
Sure.
it can get a little messy, but we finally got there. We have this team, we're fully staffed. Like our team is set and ready to rock for 2024. And what that means is we have sales managers. So we're on the sales and events team, but we have sales managers and we have event planning managers. And I believe this is one of the only spaces that actually separates those two roles. For example, at my last job with an event company here in Seattle, I was booking all of my events, right? And then I was planning those events. So you would be like from inquiry to invoice. But
Yes.
here it's much more separated because it is such a massive attraction and operation. And by nature, our department causes a lot of other departments a lot of problems, right? When we book that buyout, which we love because we love those event
Right.
dollars, but when we book that buyout, we are closing the Space Needle or Chihuly to the public, and people are traveling from all over the world to come,
see it. Right.
to these spaces. But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So let me ask you this. So speaking of just like buyouts and all that stuff, I mean, what's like the availability like there? I mean, are you guys booked far in advance? Do you still have like dates open? I mean, how far do people book these things? I feel like an attraction like that's going to get booked up pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question too. And also I'm just like so excited. I'll finish that here with the sales and events being completely separate.
Sure.
There's now 3 sales managers and there's 3 event planning managers. And then we have our VP of sales and events as well. But the 3 sales managers are actually split because we're all selling the same 2 venues. We all have the same dates on the calendar. We're split by markets. So to your question of the majority of what our events look like. So I know, see, I got so excited. I was like, forget where I'm going with this.
I love it. It seems like a really, really solid operation. I like that you guys got it organized.
Yeah. Here, Sean. So social is in my market, which includes all of our weddings. And I would say within the social category, I'll list a few off to give you an example. Social, healthcare, transportation, education. Dartmouth was reaching out for an alumni event. That would be in my market. And then my favorite is sports. I'm a big sporty spice over here. So any sports related events would go to me to, to bring in the business, try and book them, build those relationships, those partnerships, and then host their events here in Seattle. And I had mentioned this to you in my forum before the podcast, but like, what a time for sports in Seattle.
Right.
So the wave, you know, it kind of changes based on when tech was booming, you know, Amazon and Microsoft's were banging down the doors to have their events here. When things like that slowed down a little bit, you just kind of see different markets throughout the years trending in different ways. But social, weddings, and sports have been the two most popular categories for my just overall, I would say, what's kept me the busiest throughout 2023. But yeah, there's a little bit of everything. So that's also why we have the, like Aunt Susan, who's reaching out for her 20-person engagement party. And then the, Microsoft, which wants to do, we call a block party, which is when you bought out both Chihuly Garden and Glass and the Space Needle. We fence all the way around it. And then, big money, big.
Yeah, that would imagine the big companies.
Yeah, and then you have an event for 1,500 people. And we're in Seattle Center, but we're not a part of Seattle Center. We're privately owned, the Space Needle and Chihuly Garden and Glass. But I think a big goal for 2024, and just something I'm really excited about too, is we're in Seattle Center. We have a lot of awesome, unique venues around us too. And working on those relationships, we've had events that were big enough that while Mopop isn't a part of us, we work closely with them, we're neighbors with them, and have done block parties where we're actually fenced all the way around these other venues too. And you're just creating this like insane private experience in Seattle Center that, you know, your average guest who's purchasing a ticket to the top is never gonna know what that feels like. And then to your question on booking windows and we do not have an issue with like a lack of inquiries and a lack of, we're pretty easy to find, right? But that being said too, it's a high volume of inquiries we're working through and qualifying, because not everybody certainly reaching out is knows what they're doing, but that's what we're here for, or has it in their budget. But kind of based on what type of event it is and what space it is changes the booking window. So as I mentioned, you can think of the Chihuly Garden and Glass, for example, the full closure, this huge event. You can have an event for 500 people with this full closure. I can book you 1 year out. If you're looking to book a smaller space at Chihuly, we wouldn't book you until a much, much shorter window. Say you want to just book the bar at Chihuly, maybe send your guests through the interior galleries to enjoy them while Chihuly Garden and Glass is operating to the public, but you want your guests to land at the bar at Chihuly for your private event reception. That would be a shorter window, like 60 or 45 days out.
That makes sense.
With the Space Needle, and the Space Needle especially. And there's, we joke there's no space at the Space Needle, especially when the Space Needle is undergoing construction, which we are. We have 3 elevators that generally operate. And help us keep up with public business levels as well as private event business levels. But even being down 1 elevator really changes the game. So some of our windows honestly just change in response to what's going on with our operation. And because they are such iconic spaces and everybody has their eye on them, there's a lot of projects happening all of the time. So really, we're, as salespeople, we're navigating even just the no's we get internally, because we, like I said, are not a private event venue first and have these massive goals as an iconic, famous attraction. So yeah, it keeps things interesting. And then you're really learning how to connect with your client and send them in the right direction. And I will also, because we're so busy to the public, especially in the summer, our rates are, I'll say it, they're a lot higher. They're pretty high in the summer. I mean, buying out the Space Needle, we wouldn't even really consider it in the summer just because we'd be turning away so many general admissions. But you're looking at, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or let me tell you about, like, I don't know, a Wednesday afternoon in November, and you can buy out the lip level for $30K. So it's a lot of understanding your clients' needs and sending them in the right direction. And I'm kind of working on two, because we manage both properties, but they're both so different. So, so kind of steering them to, like, maybe this actually what you're looking for, what you think you're looking for isn't the right fit. Well, let me tell you about this cool meeting space on the 100-foot level of the space.
Right. We can do something for you, but this one might be out of the cards. Also, can I just say, I condone everybody like getting married on a Wednesday.
Yeah, honestly, I mean it.
I got married on a weekday. I'm all for it.
All for it, absolutely. Yeah. And people are
Things are cheaper and it's better.
People are dropping money, and this is the first. These are the first spaces I've worked at with such dynamic pricing, because even in the same month, even the same weekend, a Saturday compared to a Sunday, it could be like easy $20K difference. Yeah. And what I've learned is people are out there and have that money, and that's fun. But I for sure am like, you guys, it's all about the Wednesday weddings, and and saving $20K. Are you kidding? Anyways,
I'm doing a few. It's starting. I'm doing a few Thursday weddings next month, like a Thursday in February, and I was like, this is great. I was like, I can work with whatever budget you got, really, because I'm not going to be doing anything else that day. So it's great.
Exactly.
Well, not whatever budget, but you know what I mean.
If anything, it'll just help weed out a little bit of your guest count, and then you don't have to pay for as much catering.
That's what I say. I feel like most weddings, there's like, you probably could. There were 40 people that you probably didn't care if they were there or not. Let's lower that a little bit. Speaking of weddings, so I have some fun questions I want to ask that I ask everybody. And these are just mostly for me, because I've heard some answers all over the place. So the first one is, and it doesn't have to be wedding specific. It can be events or anything. But what's the most kind of unique thing that you've seen either like a couple do at a wedding or somebody did at an event, something that you've never really seen before that you think more people should look at?
Well, okay, I think that's two different questions, because what's something I've never seen before was I did a furry wedding at my
like everybody dressed up as like
yep. Okay. And I'll never forget it, because on the tour they asked about if we had a dress code on site, and I never really had that question before.
Right.
And we were like, I mean, not really. It's a private event venue. Just be like, I don't know, wear clothes, but like wear what you want. It was just a sea of animals. And I remember the ceremony. I was standing behind it because I'm making sure I'm looking out, making sure everything's going well. The ceremony had just begun. And I just remember looking up and just seeing all these tails sticking out of the camera.
That's weird. That's
I've never seen before. And one of the greatest couples I'd ever worked with, the bride cut the cake with a machete, like full on straight arms.
That's amazing.
And everything they so gently and kindly approved with us first. She's like, I will be bringing a sword on site if that's okay. And we're like,
how many people did they have?
Was it like a big wedding?
I can't even imagine. I mean, getting 100 people to do that is just impressive. Like, honestly,
they were leaning into the theme for sure.
That's amazing.
But something I've seen that I'm like, okay, let's get some more people to take a look at this. That's a really good question. Honestly, kind of just back to what we were just chatting about, I think COVID did really help just shake up what your average wedding looks like or needs to look like, and really has people kind of rethinking what is the most important to you. But looking outside of the Saturday, like save some money, use it for your honeymoon. Yeah. Of course, I'm saying that as a sales manager. Spend all your money on the wedding.
Yeah, of course.
But just being more open to what that looks like, and smaller, more intimate parties, I think mean a lot more to me in the events world than they did before. And I remember how devastating that was for clients that I had booked throughout COVID that originally had their 250 people guest count and ended up with parties of 40, maybe max, and watching what felt like such a plan B turn into a plan A.
Right.
And how that was really special. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so similar question though. And you had the furry thing for the interesting one, but what is probably the most cringiest thing you've seen? that you're like, please nobody ever do this. This is so uncomfortable. I don't like it.
Yeah. You know what really gets me
Huh.
is people don't sit in the front row at wedding ceremonies. So
What is that? I've
it
noticed that.
just because everyone just thinks it's going to be a row that's saved, but unless those chairs have like
Have reserved.
reserved on them, get up in that front row, because I have had brides truly in tears later that they're like, you know, in their memory, perfect day. And that's what we want, of course. And then they're going back through their photos and they're like, oh my gosh, like my photos, it looks empty in the first two rows and everyone's pushed in the back. Like that just kills me. And so does, I mean, the cringe for me is I'm just very like socially aware and in tune with the energies around me. And if music is not playing during your cocktail hour, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always silence. Silence in general is not really great. Silence is not a good thing. Silence is uncomfortable.
I mean, of all people.
Oh yeah.
You understand.
I know for sure. I'm like, I don't like silence. It's like dead air. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a big one for me. And then, okay, so this one I want to ask because what's your main piece of advice for anybody who's say they just got engaged or they're just starting to plan their event? Like, what's your number one piece of advice? Like step one.
Yeah, step one, hire a planner first. Like step one, I honestly, I don't care how much you can DIY and you have your Pinterest boards and everything locked down on Etsy and you're the most organized type A person of all time. Like, stop it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's so stressful. You only get this day once, right? Right. It's so much more work than you think that it is. It's why it's such a massive industry and just already taking that off of your shoulders. And I'm saying that as a sales manager and also, like I said in my last role, doing both the sales and event planning, but not being, there's a huge difference between an event and venue planning manager and a wedding planner and like day of coordinator, right? Yeah, so we're finalizing the bones of your event. We're finalizing our services with you, but there's so much more even beyond that you don't know. Yeah. Just it's a better experience for absolutely everybody.
Yep.
We used to joke
all about it.
Yeah, we used to joke at a former role that like it's always the caterer's fault. It always ends up being the caterer's fault. And it's like I remember that bride crying, why weren't there guests sitting in my front two rows of my wedding ceremony? Now I'm gonna have these photos of empty seats forever. And I wanted to say, sis, you didn't hire a day of coordinator.
They might have told people.
Yeah, you didn't have stuff those are like the little details
that people will think about.
Make a big difference. They're also the ones who bring the whole day together. There's a lot that happens even outside of venue access at any venue you book a wedding at for the most part. So just having someone, even if you can do it, having someone to take the pressure off of you, because you'll look back and know that you weren't able to fully be in the moment of your day. And like I said, you only get that day once and it flies by fast.
It was the most fun day I've ever had. And I got married. So I actually live in LA right now. And I had my wedding in Sylmar at this place called Reptacular Animals Ranch, who I just actually interviewed them a couple weeks back. So we'll have an episode with them. Cool. And it was just it was kind of I did have a planner, but it was a very DIY space. Like they provided the venue and that was it. Like, there was no catering, there was no bar service. You brought in everything, which I wanted because I work in events and I was like, I worked with the planner, but I was like, I think this is what we want to do. Like I wanted that kind of open canvas. And it was really, really cool. It was about 100 degrees, but it was very, very fun. The wedding itself, and there were animals, and it was just
gosh, amazing.
We're a little wild like that. Speaking of which, that was actually gonna be my last question about the venue. Do you guys, is everything there? Do you guys have in-house catering, in-house bar? Do they need to bring in anything other than say like their entertainment and photography?
Yeah, so yes and no. We have at some event spaces, for example, the private event level on Skyline, everything's in-house, tables, chairs, china, glassware, flatware, and linen. You can make your whole event happen with everything that's in-house. And that's a dream. for the client often, for us as well. The bar at Chihuly and the Loop Lounge, which is another smaller private event space at the top of the Space Needle, those spaces come as is. You'll never make a floor plan for that space. The floor plans won't change. Everything's just like set and ready to go, including even in-house AV and background music, right? Because those are also spaces that are operating to the public. And then you have spaces like the Glass House, which is more customizable. The Glass House comes with tables, China glassware, flatware, but pretty much everything else we're outsourcing and bringing in. So that's when the event planning manager really comes in clutch, because they're helping coordinate all of those details and just the complicated logistics of being in Seattle Center and not being a private event venue first, and not having loading docks or having to fit everything in an elevator to get to the right level. But there is a little bit of everything too. So that also goes back to just a big part of my role, and what I was mentioning earlier is that there's such a variety of what we can offer. And what is already available to you, and also what you can create here in the spaces.
Do you guys, out of curiosity, because I'm going to guess I know the answer, but do you guys require an event planner?
We, I don't even want to say it's not written in the contract, because it can be. I think just with the level of events, when it comes to more corporate style events, and even those companies already have in-house event planners as well. But for weddings, we would require that you have a day of coordinator. And honestly, it's me catching you from the very beginning, from our very first conversation, just explaining to you why. Because even on the other side of that, like they weren't even my weddings, but being on the other side of that and seeing how the little details can fall apart so fast, is just like, let me just catch you before we even get to that place.
But I think that's good, though. That's also like, people need to hear that, and they need to trust that you've got their best interest in mind. It's like, listen, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm not trying to make you spend more money. I'm just telling you that if you don't do this, you're going to regret it.
I know it. And I've been in the event industry now for so long that it makes so much sense to me. But I do check myself and remember, if I was reaching out as a bride, not being in this world, I would have no idea. And I would probably have no idea what my budget is, or how much I should or shouldn't be spending on certain vendors. So look, hire that planner right away. Find someone you connect with, someone that you honestly vibe with too, because your vendors are such a big part of your event that I think their energy matters. And maybe I'm just biased because I'm a vendor, if you will.
Sure.
But all of that energy is going into your event and what's making your event real and like turning into this real experience. And I think that can make a difference too. So you're already off to a good start if you have that planner on your side, and then they'll connect you. Then they'll understand your vibe, and then they'll be helping you connect with the other right vendors.
I'm still friends with some of my vendors, actually. Like I see them every once in a while. My wedding coordinator actually got married the year after me, and I just played her ceremony. I was like,
I love that.
She got married on like a Tuesday afternoon, so I wasn't booked. I was like, where is it? And it was like 10 minutes from my house. I'm like, I'll come play your ceremony. Don't even worry about it.
Fantastic.
So it was really
and that is
fun.
so that even goes back to like, that's why I'm in events. Like, it's a spider web. It's a spider web that just continues to grow and grow and grow. You're continuing to be out there, exposed to new people, connecting with new people, constantly just like getting these opportunities to keep leveling up with those experiences and the connections that you're making. And it never has to stop. It's just like one door after another. You can just keep knocking on.
Exactly. Well, and okay, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do have one last question, and it might be the most important question. You mentioned Sporty Spice earlier, and you also said you have a dog named Ginger Spice. So I'm guessing you're like a big Spice Girls fan. Is that what I'm gathering here?
Yes, I'm a 90s baby. I actually didn't catch that I did that either, but with Sports in My Market. With Sports in My Market, with Seattle sports really popping off and just these amazing events we we got to start doing the sports market blew up this last year.
Sure.
So I've been known as Sporty Spice in the office, but yes, my dog daughter, and truly the reason for why I work so hard every day to put that food on the table, to put that food in the bowl
fancy
on the floor,
food, the fancy
to
food.
keep buying, to keep keep buying those stuffed lambs that she likes to de-stuff. Her name is Ginger Spice, and she's also a Spice Girl. So we're just out here just doing our thing. Like
That's amazing.
We're Spice Girls out on the town, just trying to add a little spice to the event industry here in Seattle.
I love it. What kind of dog is she?
She's a pit bull.
Pit bull.
She's a rescue baby.
Cutie.
Shout out Beerian Cares.
Yep.
She's my screensaver. I'm staring at her face right now. She's
Mine's just starting to whine at me near the end of this podcast, so I think that's going to be my cue to go take her out after this. It's about that afternoon time. She knows it's time for the park.
It's about that time.
It's about that time. It's time for all that. Anyway, I think that's all I've got. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. We'll obviously link to all of your contacts, everything in socials and everything, so people can see it. And next time I'm in Seattle, I'm gonna have to swing by. I don't know when that will be. I was almost going to be there for if only. So spoiler, I'm like a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and they played and beat the Seahawks on New Year's Eve, and I wanted to go to that game, but it's New Year's Eve. It's like the biggest event night of the year. I couldn't do it, so I was a little bummed about it. But I do plan on getting up there. Maybe catch like a Sounders game or something at some point. So
it's
on our agenda.
Please do. I'll say that too. I mean, you had asked about, like discounts and things. And obviously we operate so differently that anytime we're hosting a private event, we're for profit, both spaces, and we're already turning away a massive amount of business. So it means while we don't have a lot of flexibility with budgets, I think just a big goal of mine is just to be opening these spaces. So many people don't know about the Skyline level or the bar at Chihuly. Yeah. And it's just a goal of mine to open these spaces up to our community as much as possible. So please reach out and let me know when you're around. And I would love to show you around and or set you up with some tickets.
Yeah, I definitely will. For sure. When next time I'm up there, I'm going to do it. I travel quite a bit, so I usually get around all those places. So anyway, Kimball, thank you so much. We'll link to all your stuff. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate you for being here. And hopefully next time I see you, we'll be in Seattle.
Yes. Amen. Cool. Thank you, Sean.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope that we've left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.